Okay, today we are diving into something wild. A new kind of warfare that's completely invisible and, at the same time, a new kind of intelligence that's watching it all unfold. Let's get right into it.
So, we're going to start with a bit of a mystery. The year is 2026. It's February. I want you to just picture this scene with me. The Strait of Hormuz, which is, one of the most critical arteries for global oil, is effectively shut down. But here's the thing that's so weird about it. It's not closed in the way you'd think. There are no warships, no minefields. Something else is going on. And get this, within just 48 hours of a regional conflict kicking off, tanker traffic through the strait absolutely collapses. We're talking an 82% drop. Boof. The whole place is basically a ghost town. And this, right here, is the crucial part to understand. This wasn't caused by a traditional naval blockade. All the military stuff, the drone strikes, the mines, that all came after the commercial traffic had already ground to a halt. The strait was commercially paralyzed before the first real shots were even fired. So, what on earth happened? Well, let's pull back the curtain and see how a global commercial system got turned into a pretty terrifying tool of irregular warfare. See, the weapon here wasn't a missile or a torpedo. The weapon was the logic of commercial risk itself. An adversary figured out how to make the global shipping industry shut itself down just by pulling a couple of key financial levers. Now, what's so brilliant about this in a way is how efficient it is. The adversary, they just need to light the fuse, create a credible threat. And after that, the global insurance market's own logic, its own incentives, they do all the heavy lifting, creating this self-sustaining, self-enforcing shutdown. So to really understand this powerful new weapon, we've got to pop the hood, Let's break down its components, just like we would with any other weapon system. Okay, first, there's this critical choke point that's just built right into the system itself. You absolutely have to have insurance. It's not optional, it's a non-negotiable. So think of it like the master on-off switch for all of global trade. Now, you might think the trigger for this is pulled by a government, right? Or a military? Nope. It's pulled by a private committee of underwriters in London, the JWC. When they decide to label an area as high risk, it has the exact same real-world effect as a full-on military blockade. And this whole thing isn't random. It unfolds in a totally predictable three-step cascade that just rapidly paralyzes all commercial traffic. First, the prices just spike into the stratosphere. Then, the existing policies get canceled. And finally, the entire region gets a giant red flag, making business pretty much impossible. I mean, to see how extreme this gets, just look at the numbers here. Insurance didn't technically vanish, it just got so astronomically expensive that it was commercially impossible to even consider. You're going from 25 grand a year to over 1.5 million. That's not a price hike, that's a signal that says, stop sailing, right now. Okay, now for a really fascinating twist in the story. An invisible systemic attack like this is the perfect kind of complex mess to test our most advanced analytical tools. So while this crisis was unfolding, a totally different kind of analyst was watching: artificial intelligence. There's this classic challenge in any conflict, what the military strategist Clausewitz called the fog of war. There's just so much uncertainty, so much noise and bad information that analyzing things in real time is incredibly difficult, even for the smartest human experts. So some researchers had this brilliant idea. Because this crisis was so new, and because it happened after the AI's training data had been collected, it was a unique, untainted environment. It was a chance to see if an AI could actually reason its way through a geopolitical crisis without having the benefit of hindsight. And the results? Well, they were pretty revealing. The AI often sliced right through all the political noise and the fiery speeches to focus on the cold, hard logic of incentives. But its skills were lopsided. It was a genius at analyzing structured problems like economics and logistics, but it was far less reliable when it tried to interpret messy human politics. It really highlights a crucial gap. An AI can tell you what's rational, but it can't always tell you what's human. All right, let's tie these two incredible threads together because this is where we can really start to see the new front line of modern conflict taking shape. So when you put them side by side like this, the contrast is just the core takeaway. We're moving from a world of purely physical, kinetic conflict to this new systemic approach where the weapons are financial logic and the enforcement is done by the market itself. And you should definitely not think this was some kind of one-off event. The same underlying mechanism, a critical trade choke point that completely relies on commercial insurance, exists all over the globe. This exact playbook could be used to disrupt these other vital arteries of the global economy. Which, when you think about it, leads to a pretty startling conclusion. One of the most powerful intelligence tools for predicting the next crisis might not be a spy satellite or some secret agent, but publicly available insurance data. The market was already pricing in the risk of conflict at Hormuz months before it actually happened. So this brings us to our new reality. We are stepping into an era where the battlefield is a global commercial system, and where these invisible systemic weapons are being countered by artificial analysts that are trying to see through the fog. All of which leaves us with this one final provocative thought. If the very commercial and financial systems that run our world can themselves be turned into weapons, then we have to get serious about rethinking where the real front lines actually are and what the future of conflict is even going to look like.